All right.
We know there's been a lot of Zoom events lately, so we really appreciate all of you that came out to hear Dr. Chernobylsky speak today. Dr. Chernobylsky is a first-year anesthesia resident at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles, California, and he attended medical school at Tulane University School of Medicine, and he will be speaking to us today about life as a resident, in addition to ways to strengthen your application for residency and how COVID has affected life in the hospital and the match process. Dr. Chernobylsky, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. The virtual floor is awesome. Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to talk about residency, kind of the whole process from med school to residency, and yeah, let's get started. So first of all, thank you guys very much for having me. This is really cool. My background, sort of very quickly outside of the Cedars part. I left high school in 11th grade, got my CHESP, which is kind of like GED if you're under 18. Went to Pierce, transferred to UCLA, took my MCAT while I was there, and then went straight to Tulane afterwards. Point of the matter is, you don't need to be a genius. I didn't even get a high school diploma. So point is, pick what you want, and go for it. For me, I picked anesthesia kind of mid third year, so it was a bit delayed. So not like super early, but also not too late. Why did I pick it? Because it's awesome. But specifically, for me, it's really number one, the medicine, you see medicine in action. So the fact that the drugs work, they work fast, and you spend so much time studying receptors, chemicals, bonds. You never really get to see it work right away, right in front of you. With this, you actually do. For me, it's kind of like magic. It's kind of like alchemy. Like you give a person a potion and they just do exactly what the potion intends, preferably. The second part is kind of the diversity of cases. There are people that love the OR. There are people that don't. I love the OR. I absolutely adore it. So when you kind of go to anesthesia, you get to have your pick of the litter. You can say, I want to do a urology case today. I could do an ortho case today. I could do a colorectal case for those that are interested. Plastic cases, whatever it is that you want to do, it's this breadth of surgery. You're not narrowed, and there's something kind of exciting going in, not knowing exactly what kind of case you're going to do, being prepared, obviously, but sort of that variety is always keeps you interested, keeps you excited. Then there's the OR. I went into medical school being interested in surgery specifically, then did a lot for urology, but I found that with anesthesia, I get that OR environment. You can't explain it. When you're in the OR, you get a feeling. Okay, everybody here, I can say, kind of at least knows what that feeling is when you're in the OR and you're just like, whoa, this is cool. That feeling is a thing. It's either you have it or you don't. If you ask an internal medicine resident about how they feel about going in the OR, they're gonna be like, nah, man, get me out of here. I don't want to be here very much. They don't feel the same way. It's how you feel. There's the balance. So there's a phrase. If your favorite place in the world is the operating room, pick surgery. If your favorite place in the hospital is the OR, pick anesthesiology. And I didn't really understand what was meant by that, and that has to do with mind space. So medicine is all about your attention, your focus. You are focusing on the patient, and you can't really focus on anything else. Because if you are, the care you're giving is not the best. And frankly, that's a limitless possibility. But when you're working, when you're practicing, when you're focusing, you have to pay attention. You have to be focusing. A lot of times when you're doing surgery, you go home and you're still working. In a lot of other specialty, it never ends. It's not that you're still at work, it's that your brain is still focused on work. So you don't have your mind doesn't have the freedom to do whatever you want, whether it's TikTok, Instagram, it doesn't particularly matter. Your mind is free to do whatever you want, because when you're done with a case or you're done with your work for the day, you're done. Your mind is free. And that to me was kind of huge, because I want to have the freedom to do whatever it is I want, even if it's nothing, but at least having the freedom to do what I want. So that's kind of why for me. So now the why nots. So this isn't all butterflies and rainbows. There are positives, there are negatives. And I want to be transparent with you guys, tell you exactly how it is. Is it high pressure? Yes, you're dealing with life and death, literally someone's life and their death. So messing up is not an option. So this kind of hours of boredom, moments of chaos, the moments of chaos are so chaotic because if you aren't paying attention in the moment that you have to pay attention, that's a big problem. So it's very much about maintaining your boredom, but in a way where you're staying focused still. So it's not all fun and fancy free. You have to pay attention, you have to kind of be present, monitor. Monitoring is definitely a thing, and handling those high stress situations. And the solution for the high stress situation is practice, practice, and practice. Anesthesia is actually, I didn't realize this until going into residency. The training in the beginning for anesthesia is actually, in my opinion, a little bit harder, because you are dealing with situations that are very stressful and are very extreme. Personally, I think that's awesome, because there's people that they follow medicine for interest, and there's people that follow medicine for excitement. I like the excitement of it. I actually find it exciting. But in order to have it be exciting, practice, practice, practice. And that's what the residency is for. It's there to train you. It's there to make you something more than what you are right now in this moment. The second thing, CNA pressure. So our job opportunity shrinking, that is possible. So different programs and different hospitals are moving to a CRNA MD DO based model. And what does that mean? That means that job opportunities and sort of dynamic changes, your role changes, as opposed to just you one-on-one in the OR, you're now overseeing CRNAs. That's the key to this, is that if the person goes into medicine and says, I'm going to get my MD, I'm going to finish my residency, and I'm solid for the rest of my life. No field, no specialty, none of these are safe from literally fluctuations in the economy. Changes constantly happen. You have, different specialties where similar things are happening. So it's really up to you to be aware of this. Be aware of it, yes, but be mindful that it's you finish the residency or the fellowship, and then you start your practice or you start working, and it's completely based on you. There's still a huge job market. It's going from huge to less huge, okay, but you just got to make sure that you're on top of your game, that you're watching the market, you're watching how things are moving. That's dependent on you, absolutely. And the third thing is respect. And this is something that depending where you practice, I'm going to say this, physician anesthesiologists can be treated with different degrees of respect. I haven't personally experienced that kind of treatment, but I've seen it. I've seen it where anesthesia is referred to as, hey, anesthesia. That doesn't particularly bother me. I haven't experienced it, I haven't felt it, but I've met people who it bothers them. So it's important to kind of realize that there are boundaries, that on one hand, there are basically, you're not the captain of the surgical ship, sure, but you are a physician. It comes with blood, sweat, and tears. You guys are working so hard, nonstop. You have a goal, you want to achieve it. This is hard. Boards are hard. Like, there's no going around that. Like, that stuff is really, really hard. So you've gone through this journey. You are a physician. DO, MD, doesn't matter. Like you're a physician and your training is different. Your breadth of knowledge, your differential is wider, and you're not demoted to be something else. You're still a doctor, you're still a physician. And that's something that I think that comes internally that you keep with you. So, and I think environment really plays into that. Culture and environment matter. Oh yeah, and that's the other thing that I actually didn't mention earlier. I want to just bring it up. The other thing that I do love about anesthesia is the culture. And this plays a huge role in residency. You don't see it so much in med school as you do in residency. The way attendings treat residents, culture is totally different. Orthopedic, very broy, very intense, very scary sometimes. With general surgery, they are tough. They are tough. I've been on a lot of the gen surg trauma rotations, and I have just like, my eyes have just bulged. It's, wow, that's harsh. Anesthesia, you ask a question and they answer it, and they don't tell you to look it up and then make you feel bad for not knowing. It's amazing. So that's kind of a huge thing for me, because, you know, I want to be in an environment where if I ask a question, it's because I'm actually curious, and I'm not asking because I'm afraid of people thinking I'm not smart. I want an environment where I can feel like, I don't know, can you teach me? Can you help me learn? And that exactly happens. So that's why I also really appreciate the culture. Let's see what's next. Oh, there it is. Okay, yeah. So thank you, David, for talking about anesthesia. But I already know I want to match. Well, come on, give me the good stuff. Give me the juicy deets. So the way we're going to do this is it's going to be a reverse residency approach. We're going to work backwards, because as you work backwards, you're going to see certain points that you wouldn't see going forward. So first, we're going to talk about program considerations. Say you have done your interview, submitted the app, you've gotten the programs, you now have your rank list, right? Great, awesome. What are you going to consider in the programs that you're ranking? After that, we'll talk about the interviews, the different components of that. After that, we'll talk about the residency application. And for that part, I'll mostly be answering some of the questions that were submitted beforehand. So those are really good for answering those kind of questions. I know my computer is moving, but what's going on? There we go. I don't know why it just takes so slow. Sorry about that. So residency program considerations. Number one, it's about you. Number two, it's about them. And number three, it's about neither. So what does that even mean? It's about you. So what are you looking for in a program? When you see that there's, you know, the location. For me, I want it to be in LA. I want it to be close to home. Some people, they want to be rural. Some people, they want to be as far away from home as possible. It's whatever is up to you. So what about prestige and rank, doximity? You got US News rank, you got regional, national rank. I'll be completely honest with you. I'm very grateful that Cedars is so highly ranked, but I really wouldn't care. I love the hospital regardless. So it's up to you what matters, what part of that matters to you. Research, you know, do they have NIH grants? What are their current projects? These are all things that you can look up, Google, talk to people, word of mouth. Depending how much energy you want to put on it. Diversity, patient population diversity. I, you know, grew up with this patient population. I really care about it. I will also say that Cedars has a very cool benefit of working with celebrities. I can't mention any names because I can't, but I have worked with some and it is awesome. That is a very cool feature that I haven't experienced anywhere else. That's, you see a celebrity and you're like, wow, that is this celebrity. So, and then also their mission. So what's their aim? What's their goal? What do they want to focus on? Because their aim kind of changes. Like the mission statement on the website is great, but what is the program's aim? Because very often programs are on different parts of a spectrum. Some are trying to increase diversity. Some are trying to increase research. Some are trying to increase size. What stage or what component are they at? For the vibe, that was actually another thing that was important to me, is personalities. I like to talk, as you can tell. I just like to communicate, talk, downtime. You know, I like to be pretty chill, go out, do stuff. There are programs where people do not really talk. They don't really get along. They just kind of go to work and they leave. And it's kind of, you gotta sense that. You know, what's the location like? What's the area like? What are the people that this program attracts like? And you just gotta see if you vibe. And then future career, do they have the kind of fellowships that interest you? And do people in these programs go to fellowships? And if they don't, why not? And if they do, which ones do they go to and why? These are all questions you can ask during the interview, which is why we're going backwards. So when you think about these, oh, maybe I should have asked that during the interview, I forgot. Now we're going backwards to kind of go and do that. And the other things are like, you know, for me, Cedars-Sinai, there's a giant, they just threw up a giant 12-foot Star of David on the front of the hospital. Like, I'm just like, okay, I will accept that and take that as a sign. That was for me. For you, it may be something else. Now, the second part, it's about them. What are their considerations for choosing applicants, right? This is the question that really kind of gets medical students very nervous. What do they want? I have a kind of multiple answers to this. The first one is going to be fairly broad, basically saying they want good class dynamic, good class diversity. They want good technical skills and positive energy, right? That's the classical answer you're going to get if you ask anybody. And then I'll get into more specific things that I will tell you. The third part is it's about neither. So there are factors out of our control. The match is an algorithm that starts with you and ends with them. And this took me, I may be wrong. I may absolutely be wrong on this, but my understanding is because it starts with you and ends with them, on their rank list, they matter more than medical students do because it ends with them, and it starts with us. So what ends up happening is it really matters is what do they feel about you? Your application, your numbers give you kind of that foot in the door, but during the interview, how did you make them feel? How do they feel that you know, how badly do you want to come to their program? How much are you invested? How hardworking are you? And how do you convey that? And we'll get into that later. The timing, COVID-19, virtual interviews. This is a very weird time. Last year was weird, but this is like a whole nother level. And it's very important to be aware of that. I will talk about different components of the interview, which basically negate the virtual versus real component. Yes, virtual. Yes, you gotta have the IG light, circular light source, make yourself look nice and fresh for the interviews. But at the end of the day, it's the same basic principle. I call it the hero's journey. And I will talk to you about that a little bit later, what that means for the interview. And the third thing is the swing. And the swing is basically program director's mindset, their personal views, and their unconscious biases that are inherent to all humans. Maybe it was a bad day for them, a rough morning, an extra tough case, and you were the first person that walked in the room. It's not your fault. It's also not their fault. It's the situation. So also being mindful of that and understanding that this is a very hard and very uncertain process. One author that I've been reading, he was talking about, you know, we oftentimes think we don't have everything we want right now. But if you think in your head, well, it's on its way, that'll maybe help kind of lessen the anxiety, because that is a lot of it, is controlling your own anxiety. That's basically what anesthesia is all about, really. So student question, kind of, I'm gonna mix these in here. How would you suggest students go about finding residency programs suitable for them? Most important factors. At the end of the day, it's about you. You can go to Frida, you can go to Doximity, you can go word of mouth, you can do cold call. I've done cold calls. It's awkward, but just try to mitigate the awkwardness. Sometimes just don't tell them your name. Be like, hi, I'm a medical student. That's it. They can't, that's it. But again, figure out the main points, know what you want, know what matters to you, and then pursue that, whatever that may be. Residency program consideration. So the main points, you've done your rank list, you're about to submit it. You really need to ask this question when you're making it. Are you at risk of not matching? Because that's really the end game. Yes, you want to match the best program at the best thing, but you have to go on both sides of the spectrum. On one side, I want to be at this place and that's it, nothing else. On the other side, oh my God, I want to have some bread. Right? It's a job. You have to have the job. I personally believe that an MD without a residency is one of the most useless degrees in America, because you have to have a residency to practice medicine. It's very important. It's your job. So watch your step score. Watch it for any failures, not competitive for a chosen specialty, lack of backup, poor interview skills, ranking too few programs. Keep that in mind, just as a checklist to be like, no, I didn't do, certain things and I'm in the clear. Just be mindful of that. All right. So with all this uncertainty, what are we going to do? The interview. Again, the reverse approach. We're going to apply this to the interview as well, because it's going to help us kind of piece everything together. Post-interview communication, the interview, specifically now the virtual interview, and the pre-interview communication. So post-interview communication, why is that important? It's common courtesy. You're thanking the program. You're helping the program remember you, and you're also demonstrating interest. You're giving them new updates, research, whatever it is, but you're reminding them, because we're all human and we like to remember everything in the universe, but sometimes we can't. So a nice little reminder, a little ding, like, oh yeah, that person, right, that was cool. You're showing interest in this way to a program that you don't have geographical ties to. You are basically showing yourself as an exception to the rule. It's happening again. There we go. Post-interview communication. So now, like, okay, why really are we doing this? Like, in addition to everything I just said, why are we really doing this? You want to let your number one program know that they are your number one program, for sure. You have to really consider this. You have to really talk with yourself. What do you want? The decision that you're making. But you can only tell one program that you're number one. They do crosstalk. And even if they don't, the possibility is just, you weigh risks and benefit. The risk is too high for the minimal benefit that you would get. So it's not wise to do that. So pick one and then let them know. So also be aware of how to respond if a program that you like, but say isn't like your top program. How do you respond to that? And it's important to be polite, respectful, but at the same time, if they're not your number one, you cannot lie. That's a very important thing, is don't lie. That's critical. Program directors if they see that they get offended. And I think that's fair to say, because if you were on their position, that would be a similar reaction. So send thank you letters. Do it for your top 3 for sure, because you want to know, hey, really, you guys are awesome. And most importantly, you want to talk about why. They have to be personal. And the fact that they have to be personal is where we get to our next point. The interview. The interview, this new interview, lights, camera, action, blink once to start, blink twice to stop, and then just deer in headlights. That's basically how I feel this new virtual interview has been going on. But at the end of the day, this is your chance to show them, to make a connection and to make it personal, so you can talk about it later. Make it personal. Okay, so what do you mean by make it personal? Make the experience meaningful. Make a connection with whatever person you're talking to, because this is a very limited opportunity for them to get all of you. This is all of you, and this is the amount of time you have to show them all of you. That's kind of hard. So focus on at least making it meaningful and personal. If you can't make it personal, make it meaningful, okay? Make it so that they at least feel something during that moment, so that when they look back, they may not remember the details, but they remember what they felt. Was it awkward? Was it not awkward? Was it fun? Was it a breath of fresh air during a very long interview day? And if you can't make it meaningful, at least make it informative. You know, prepare, inform them who you are. You know, ask about their program. These are all kind of levels. If you can do all of them, that's great. But, you know, those are kind of the things that you want to be thinking about during the interview. And the second part is, how do you answer these interview questions? And this is where we go beyond sort of interview in person versus virtual interview, because at the end of the day, you are a storyteller. When they ask you a question, what's your greatest strength? What's your greatest weakness? You're not going to be like, greatest strength, hockey. Greatest weakness, donuts. Like, that's not what they're asking. So I found that a nice way of doing this is using the hero's journey structure. It's a literary device. You know, I don't know if anybody's seen Rick and Morty, but basically that's very famous for using the hero's journey. You start in the beginning, you go to the middle, and then there's an end. And I know that that sounds overly simplistic, but if you think about it, the beginning is the setting, the situation, what happened. The middle is what you did in that situation, and the end is what you drew from it and what you grew from it, from the experience. So is it positive or negative? I prefer to keep it positive. For example, you know, they say, David, you know, what's different about you? Like, why are you unique? That was probably one of the harder questions I got. Like, what's so special about you? That wasn't the exact phrasing, but it was very much like, so why you, bro? And my answer was very much, you know, talking about my experience working on an away rotation at a hospital, and in the OR, it was me and another medical student, and the patient had a laryngospasm. And they had taken out the ET tube. The patient was having a laryngospasm, and that's very dangerous because they don't have any airway support. They can actually die from that. And the medical student and I looked at each other, and I had like literally made sure to keep in mind where the critical care bag was with the ET tube and everything, and it was gone. It was nowhere to be found. And the other medical student panicked, like just straight up, just panicked. And I was like, great, we don't have the ET tube. What am I going to do? That's right. I'm just going to go in the drawer, pick out a new one, put in the stylet, and then, attach the valve and then give it to, it was also pretty nerve wracking because that was a program director, their case. But in that particular moment, it was you either stop or you go. And what did you draw from that? I was able to see that in times of incredible chaos and distress, I can keep calm under pressure. So you have a beginning, the middle, the beginning, the setting, the situation, what happened. The middle, what did you do in that situation? And the end is, what did you draw from it? What did that show you about yourself? And what does that show the interviewer about you? We're humans. We respond to stories. We respond to images. You, when I was talking, probably had some sort of image of the patient spasming of some kind laying on the table. Like, that's an image that's going to be stuck in your head, even though all it was a bunch of words coming from this guy. So that's kind of, you want to be careful though, because you don't want to fall in the trap of answering it vaguely or leaving your story without an ending. If I was to say, yeah, I gave the tube. Okay, cool story, bro. Like, what's the point? So you want to also connect it. You want to draw that conclusion and just give it to them and say, hey, this experience wasn't just a cool story. It was meaningful, and it showed me something about myself that I want you to know, respectfully and professionally. So yeah, respond to stories, respond to visual representation. And the other thing is, how does that make you feel? You know, when you tell the story, sometimes you get nervous, like, oh my God, is the patient gonna be okay? I don't know. So you want them to actually feel something, preferably positive emotions, at least at the end. That can work for team, you know, are you a good team player questions, different things like that. So now we get into this point of what are interviewers looking for? What are program directors looking for? And we as medical students, we rack our brains, like, what are they looking for? Oh my God, what do they want? Do they want a genius with like, they want hard workers, they want good people, they want fun people. It's not rocket science. It's not rocket science. It's just stressful, and you just have to show them who you are. Be prepared. Know your answers to questions. For me, I like had memories picked out for each question, just to know like what am I referencing? What are my main ideas? And when you have that in mind, you have all the equipment, all the arsenal at your disposal. You have lived your life. The only problem is when you sit in front of the interviewer, your whole life just disappears. So you just got to make sure that you know which parts are the most meaningful in this particular scenario. So common interview questions that can catch you off guard. Do you prefer working as a member of a team? Right? These, for anesthesiologists, we think, oh, well, you know, I want the autonomy. Well, anesthesiologists have more autonomy than most, but medicine is always a team effort. There's going to be a surgeon, there's going to be a nurse, there's going to be a tech, there's always going to be someone. So yes, you are always a team player. You're always a team player, and you just have to have memories and understanding why you're a team player, and think about, why am I a team player? The kind of question to ask yourself. Tell me about your research. I love that one. I love that one. Which one? There's like 5 pages. Which one are you referring to? You know, and really you have to pick one, maximum 2 or 3, but pick one and do the same thing with the hero's journey. Talk about the research. I remember working at, I can't mention any institutions, but working with this awesome trauma surgeon. And I remember he was like, he gave me a prompt, and I looked at it, I was like, this is impossible. I have 3 weeks to collect 15 years of data and analyze it. This is not possible. And I remember just working so hard to collect all the data and making it happen, and going from getting the IRB approval, getting the data analyzed, writing the abstract, writing the manuscript, submitting it to publications, presenting the oral presentation, and you know, fixing the reviewer comments. And at the end, when we're walking out of the oral presentation, he walks over to me. He's like, "Yo, David, so I didn't think you could actually do that project. I'm actually surprised. So that's a good job you did that." And a lot of it is you realizing that this story has a beginning, a middle, and the end is your realization that you wanted something so badly that you were going to make it happen no matter what. And that's the idea that you're presenting to them through this whole story. That's what they want to take away from it. Why are you unique? And you are unique because your memories and your life experiences are different from everybody else. So before anesthesia, did you plan on pursuing a different field? Are you applying to any other specialties? Why not? That's another tricky one, because everyone has a past. You're in medical school to experience other medical specialties. It's not like you went to anesthesiology school. So everybody has, you know, a journey that they went through. It's important to be proud of it. It's important to understand why you went to anesthesia. Like, what about it was uniquely different? I love the fact that I can go into a urology case, and I can also go into orthopedic case. Also, one thing that was super important to me that I'm really happy I'm doing it now is I wanted my first year to see, I wanted to be a surgeon. I wanted to be a medicine doctor. I wanted to be an emergency medicine doctor, and then go to anesthesia. And I've literally been on orthopedic trauma, acute care surgery trauma, emergency medicine, and had to experience that and actually got to live it. You can do anything for a month, is what they say during residency, because it can be tough. But whatever you decide on, you had a journey, and literally following the hero's journey, beginning, middle, end, will answer that for you. Pre-interview communication. Okay, so now we're going backwards. We're going backwards now before the interview even happens. What's going on? Well, we're in a very uncertain time, interesting time. Programs are actively promoting their programs on social media. You know, different people are trying to reach out, see what's going on. And at the end of the day, you are an ID number, not even in a physical packet anymore, like on a screen. So how do you make yourself a human being who has lived, breathed, cried, slept, everything, and show them that you're a real human being? Email them. Tell them, I mean, if you're interested in a program, let them know. Interest begets interest. If you show interest in them, they'll be like, oh, okay, well, alrighty then. I actually know people in this cycle, not mentioning any names, that have gotten interviews from an email. That is a thing. And it's really just, it's stressful, it's nerve-wracking, but if you want something, you get it. You go after it. That's how you got here. So, one second. Did I skip one? Not sure. Yes, so the medical student question. What is the most important thing program directors look for in candidates, right? So we talked about this quite a bit about, you know, they want a good storyteller, one that can make them feel like they know the person and that they give them something meaningful to think about. So use the hero's journey, use it to your advantage. This is something that not a lot of people know about. It's very simple, but very powerful. Okay, residency app student questions. So this is where we get to the residency application itself. So we've gone through what's the program about, what's the interview about. Now that you have that in mind, you can see, you can look back and see, what do I need in my application so that when I'm on the interview, I have this point and this point and this point. So I'll start with audition rotations. When it works. Okay. So the first question, what would you recommend that a student who attends medical school in Florida do for auditions in a hospital in California? You guys are in Florida. I'm in California. If you're interested, this is kind of an opportunity. Research programs. You can reach out to research programs or people that are doing interesting research to you in California. A lot of things are virtual right now. The map is really open for that, if that's something that's of interest to you. Auditional rotations, away rotations. Things are different. I don't have as much knowledge about this because my time was a little bit different, but reaching out doesn't hurt. Virtual research is a thing that is very possible and could be in your benefit. Pre-interview contact, basically reaching out, telling a program that you're interested before, and sort of telling them why. Is it their research? Do you want to work with someone in their research lab? Like, in addition to just saying like, oh, I like you guys because you have a cool name, I like you because you actually have something behind that doximity rank list number, right? It's something meaningful, something genuine. So there's also the interview performance and the post-interview communication that we had talked about earlier. Okay, so next question, how do you write a personal statement for a specialty of interest when you haven't had clinical experience in that field yet? So Google, Amazing. Reddit. Oof. Student Doctor. These are some great resources. But also you. You know, you can do the online searches, the NCBI, you can go on American Society of Anesthesiology. But at the end of the day, if you're in this meeting right now, you probably have some idea of what anesthesiology is. Maybe not all the ideas, but you have a good idea of what it is. And it's very likely that you also know subconsciously what it is about the field that you really care about. And that's how you put yourself in the position of the person reading it. The person reading it's probably just as tired as you are writing it. You want to keep them engaged. You know, we all, I don't know how you guys did it, but in high school we had the hook, we had the thesis statement. Those things are kind of still applicable. You want to still hook them with attention. You still want to continue their attention by talking about what about anesthesia, what about your life and your experiences in life that have brought you to this point that say, hey, no other field, anesthesiology. Why would someone else look at you and be like, really? Anesthesiology? Why? And you're going, because I don't want to do anything else. The person has something behind them, something really behind them that they believe in. And that's what you want to convey in the personal statement. How to approach letters of recommendation. This is huge. Letters of rec are huge. This is very important. Why? Because it's not what you say about yourself, it's what other people say about you. Meaning, if you go and try to get a letter from someone you've not really worked with, but they're like super famous or super high up there, that's great. You know, that's great. Brad Pitt wrote your letter of rec. That's awesome. Wow, that's amazing. He wrote one line saying that you're really sweet. That's an exaggeration. Point is, you want people that know you, that can speak to your strengths, because that's what they're going to be paying attention to. If they do read your application, again, I don't know all residency program directors. I don't know the details of the process. Some do read, some don't read. It depends. I've walked into interviews and they're like, so tell me about yourself. What's your name? All right. That's a possibility. That's totally possible. Sometimes they do read it. And then you kind of want to have that effect that when they read through your application and they look up at you and they go, what are you? Like, that's a good feeling to have. That's a good thing. So you really want to have letters of rec that speak to your strengths. Strengths about tenacity, strengths about empathy. These are the things that when someone else says it about you, it's even more value than if you say it about yourself. Because these are the soft skills that they're looking for. You know, the clinical, the research, the leadership. These are the things that they will gauge from that. So be very careful with who you pick and also when you pick, when you get the letters. It's not just who you get it from, it's when. If you just did a research project with someone, ask then instead of like 6 months later when they're like, yeah, what do you want? Like, timing also matters. Just be aware of that. How important do you think anesthesiology related research is for application? Right. So there's some mixed opinions about this. I don't think I would actually be the best person to ask this because I just love research. I love writing in general. So there's a lot of people that they had no research and they had maybe one project and that was it. And they're fine. They're totally okay. And then there's me. Sorry, like I love doing it. I think it's exciting. I don't want to stop. It depends on you. You want to do a project that you care about, that matters to you, because this is your life. You're going into medicine, and when you start studying so much and gathering so much information, you forget why you're here sometimes. But at the end of the day, you went into this because either you thought it was cool or you thought it was interesting. So, and research you're in a position where you know so much and can do so much that you can actually move medical knowledge, aka magic, forward. You can contribute to that. You don't have to, but you can. So this is really up to you, and it's an individual sort of a thing. So that's my take on that. Does it help? Yes. If you don't have it, anesthesia is not just like research in anesthesia isn't critical, but it helps. So what about research could help? Does it boost resume? Sure. Does it increase your knowledge base and skills? Like different statistical analysis that you can't pick up later? Yes. Does it help you build connections? Yeah, interesting. So the connections, other professionals, they go to events, they have fundraisers, they have like social events where they talk to each other. Oh, you're a producer, I'm an actress. Oh, let's do a project. For us, it's a little bit different. For us, you do a research project with someone and you work hard and you achieve it, that leaves a lasting impression on the researcher. They're still paying attention, they're still aware of what you're doing, and they can speak on your behalf. They are those connections that you're building because you're doing it through your actions, not just your words. And those actions speak volumes. What are the top 3 most important extracurriculars to have as an anesthesia applicant? So community. That can be volunteering, that can be leadership, that can be clinical. It's not really the type of experience. It's good to have diversity in your application, absolutely. Leadership, work in clinics, volunteering in the community, all very, very important, all excellent. But it's really about the hero's journey when you're on the interview, because you want to tell them a story. You want to tell them something exciting. David, what's a time that you felt like you were in a leadership role? I really wanted to be a part of the relief effort in New Orleans after the tornado, but they told, I had an exam, but after the exam, I said that I'm available to volunteer. And the volunteer organization said that they were booked. And I said, it's a hurricane. A tornado just went through New Orleans East. What do you mean you guys are booked for volunteers? So I just asked a couple of med students, shot an email out to the class, said, hey, let's all go out and see how we can help. And like a chunk of us, 15 to 30 people, went out and started moving the debris from these destroyed houses to the street, because the city of New Orleans would have charged the people to move the debris of their houses unless they moved it to the side of the street, which is horrible. When other people found out about it, news outlets picked it up. More people came in. What happened from that experience? I saw that if you want a change to happen, you got to be that change. That's, again, beginning, middle, and end. It's a story with a purpose. So that's why these things matter. The extracurriculars matter, because it gives you a memory that you can feed off of and share it professionally. So awards, any recommendations on this section? Get them, shoot for them, shoot really, really hard. And if you can't, move on. There are bigger, better things in life. This is not to make or break your application. Shoot for them, try to get it. If not, it's about your memories and it's about who you are as a person. That's what matters the most. Student question, what about MSP third-year clerkships? Study hard, shelves are important. The MSPE does matter. Doesn't make or break your application. Don't think, oh my God, I didn't do as amazing as I wanted to, I'm screwed. You're okay. You're okay. Keep moving forward. It's you versus yourself. Study, do the best you can. UWorld, Amboss, so many resources. Literally, like, if someone just wanted to spend a century studying, there's enough resources for that. So pick your battles wisely. Choose your resources, stick to them, do what you gotta do do your tests, get your evals, work hard. This is not the time to be lazy. It really isn't. Work hard because it's going to be useful later. For anesthesia rotations, you'll be, if you genuinely feel for anesthesia and love the field, it will much more naturally come to you. You're going to want to participate. You're going to want to be there. And they'll know that. You'll do well because they see that you want to be there. You want to work hard. And that's what matters. That's what really is critical. That's also why I love the culture, because that's a huge part of it. They want to see that you genuinely care. USMLE scores, oof, they matter. Cutoff values are real. They use them to screen applicants. Be aware of that. There are exceptions, of course, but do your homework. What I did, I called programs directly. And it's also very important to know the difference when you ask about the USMLE range for interview or range for acceptance. Those are two very different numbers. So just bear in mind, if those numbers are the same, excellent, no problem. If those numbers are different, that's something for you to keep in mind between the interview and the acceptance. Those are two different components. So be vigilant. Miscellaneous question, the intern clinical base year placement. So this is more going back to like when you're selecting your rank list. So we're doing a full circle. Clinical base year plus the advanced year. What is that? That is a contract. So when you do a categorical, that's a 4-year contract. Intern year plus 3 clinical anesthesia years. That's one contract. If you do a clinical base year plus 3 advanced years, that's also a single contract. It's one line on your rank list that you basically link to locations. It's mostly a geographical linker. It's for people that want to stay in a geographic location for 1 more year. Either they have a significant other or they just want to stay in a place. Those are the possible reasons that people want to do it. Or they want to be in multiple places. Me personally, I wanted to be in one place that I love and stay there. For the clinical base year, you have surgical, medical, or a transitional year. Surgical, you're a surgical intern, you do what the surgeons do. Medical, you do what the medicine interns do. Transitional, this is what Cedars has. I personally think it's the hardest because you take the hardest of the surgery electives and the hardest of the medical electives. But the trick is you get the best training for anesthesia because anesthesiology requires both surgical dexterity and thinking and speed and medical clarity and wide breadth of differentials and thoroughness. Well, I mean, everybody's thorough, but just like those, there are multiple aspects. You know, I was told by a mentor of mine, to be a great anesthesiologist, you can't just have technical skills or critical thinking skills. You need both. A lot of people are either technical people that need to learn to think, and then there's also thinkers that need to learn technical skills. So that's really where it comes down to, is this balancing act. And the transitional year really helps with both. So is it harder? I think so. I think it's harder because you're constantly switching from one to the other, but you basically gain this extra capacity, this extra ability to handle stress, to handle certain intense situations, so that when you start your anesthesia year, you advance, your advancement is so much faster, so much more fluid as you go along. And that's the point of residency. It's hard. It really takes its chunk of your life, and it really takes up the mind space and energy. But at the end of the day, we went into this because we wanted to learn something for the rest of our lives. So resource recommendations for interviews. My holy book was a successful match, Rules to Success in Residency Match. This is the same people that wrote Success on Awards. It's a very helpful book. It's a thick book. I have it actually. I had the 2017 version, but basically it's very, very helpful because it gives you every possible, scenario, and it helps you prepare. And when you're prepared, you do better. So, Mr. Bean says, thank you very much. Yeah, thank you for listening. That's kind of like the big stuff. I have additional things just in case, we don't have questions, but I would like to open the floor to questions and happy to answer them.